Hi everyone. Today's episode I'm going to talk about should you struggling to find your unique writing voice? Here's what you need to know. Okay, so this is an episode that's attempting to see how we can intentionally approach developing or finding a writing voice. Now, before I proceed with the analogy I want to give and everything with writing voice, the first thing I have to say is that is writing voice something we find or is it something we develop? Now, what analogy do I have for developing a writing voice? It's more like how does a child find its voice? First, the child is in an environment. It's surrounded by father, mother, family, extended family, neighbors, friends, and all that. And the child listens, like listens all day. That's what the child does. And people say things. People say a lot of things. The child listens, and at first, the child tries to attempt and say what when the child, of course, gets to the age, he tries to say some things that, and they're terrible, terrible versions of it. Like we know that the child is trying to say this thing, but it doesn't sound like that thing, and we're like, oh God, what is this? You know. But usually, it's based on what the child hears. Then he tries to imitate it, and he says, "Oh, this, Dara, Papa, Mama," like to something like that, and the thing is, with writing itself, with developing your voice, you have to imitate. Like I can't. It's just like me trying to tell you that in order to find your voice, you have to find your voice. Like in order to find your voice, you have to try to speak. And then the question is, what do I speak about? What do I don't know. I've never spoken in my life. What do I say? And then let's listen to people speaking and try to see what they're saying. And with a child, with the environment and everything, people talking. And so with what they're saying, tries to imitate, tries to say and speak what they say too. Because the child wants to speak, everybody's talking. He child wants to talk too. And it's a pretty much exciting thing. And so in attempting to talk, in talking itself, the child finds its voice. At first, the voice itself is not a static thing that's like, oh, this is your voice. It's not never going to change. It's something that develops. The voice the child had at the first attempt with talking is not the voice the child has when the child is like probably 18 or 19. It's a different thing. The child has developed, has tried, attempted talking a lot of times and, found something that's uniquely has or is you found something that is uniquely yours. Now, how do you find this? It's over different combinations of different people. And yeah, your mom, your dad, the environment, the people who speak, everything comes and mix up together. And you get your voice. But you don't attempt to find your voice by going on in order to find that voice. No, instead you attempt to speak. And in trying to talk, you find your voice. So in writing itself, in order to find our voice as writers, we write, we read, and in reading we surround ourselves with a lot of works, and those works come into, like, we absorb a lot of them, and then we attempt to write we attempt to imitate those writers. And when we do try to imitate, what happens is that at first we write something that is not completely original, something that it is not completely real, which is an imitation. That's the essence of an imitation. And then over time, we start to drift into our own natural form of writing itself. And then we can write, we can walk on our own. It's more like a child tries to walk. And at first, when the child tries to stand, he falls, right? So usually they'll give the child with equipment, something like that the child can hold, but it moves. So the two kind of provides a support for the child, while it allows the child to move the legs, to move the legs. And over time, the child gets a feel of what the environment is, of standing and balancing, and sooner or later, the child will need that support, and the child can write, the child can walk on its own accord. So the same thing with writing. Writing voice is something we develop, and we develop that by trying things, by imitating things, by reading a lot of works. And we don't just sit down and say, oh, how can I find my writing voice? You don't find the writing voice. You try writing, you consume a lot of reading and writing, and then you attempt writing and you imitate. You write stuff, and then you find, oh, this is how I write stuff. This is my writing voice, right? No, it's not like, oh, I'm like, my child wants to talk. How does my child find the writing voice? Like, encourage the child to talk, say things, and then point to this thing and say these, and then watch the child, and then keep saying the thing, and then the child's like, oh, dada, mama, and stuff like that. So in the same vein, with finding our I keep saying finding our voice. We're developing our voice. It's something that we figure out, we find out, we develop by doing itself. And it's in attempting to talk, and in talking, that's when we can develop our voice. That's when we can find and work on our voice and shaping our voice rather than anything else. So the question is, How do we practice? How do we make our voice really, really, really good? Well, we listen to a lot of people that will love their quality of speech. And the thing is not that when we want to listen to a variety of them, and over time we create something that it is not one of anybody, but it's different. And some people are like, wow, it's so unique, even though you mixed different hundred, like you've stole from 100 different masters. And then people are like, wow, your stuff is so unique, it's so incredible, it's so wonderful. Like, really? It's incredible. It's wonderful. Are you really serious? Are you kidding me right now? No, I'm not kidding you. I'm really serious right now. I'm like, okay, if you say so, what can I say about that? Right? So things that we have to attempt writing itself, we have to move towards it. We have to imitate works. We have to take the works of writers. We have to copy them. We have to look at them and say, okay, how do I write stuff? I think there was a time when Benjamin Franklin, when he was asked how he learns writing, he said he would take the works of reputable magazines and the writing on those magazines, and he would attempt to deconstruct those writing to get a feel of the style, of how the words flowed into each other, of how the words combine together to create that sweet, really that sweet style. And he would do that, and he would do that over time. He got the feel and the hang of it, and then he could write on his own and write beautifully well. So basically, that's it. Yeah, that's how, like, that's the basic advice of saying how you find your voice. So the first thing we have to say is that your voice isn't something you find, it's something you develop. That's the first thing we have to know. We have to keep in mind. It's not like, oh, I have to go on a journey to find, like, something you develop, right? And you develop that by attempting to speak, by attempting to write. Then you find your voice. Okay, imitating others isn't always bad. Now, what does it mean to imitate? I'm not going to say that I'll try to write stuff like Shakespeare and say, "Oh, I'm Shakespeare," and stuff like that, or copy or rip off Shakespeare's work. No, the whole goal is to learn. That's the thing. It's just like when you were young. In order to get to start writing, I think when I was younger, when I was in the kindergarten or so, in order to our first attempt at writing or using the pencil, we've never touched that stuff before. Like, we don't even know that. That was like a mystery, a mystic tool. The teacher would hold the pen, we'll put the pencil in our hand, we'll hold our hand, and then start writing the letters. Right? Yeah, wow. This is such a perfect example. We'll start writing the letters, and over time the feel will come into our hands, and we too will attempt to write the letters. And they would give us handwriting books. We have these letters. We will just have to try and write in those form of those letters. And over time of writing and writing and writing, we'll find our own unique handwriting. Some of us, our handwriting is absolutely terrible, but we'll find something that is uniquely ours. That, like, anywhere we see our handwriting, like, that's my handwriting. Like, what's my handwriting doing there? It's not something we just came up on the spot of the moment. Like, there were times where we didn't have, like, writing itself was hard itself. But over time we got to develop, and now we're at this point where we have a handwriting. And it's not like we found the handwriting, we didn't find it, we developed it, right? By writing itself. It's not like if we as kids we just sit down and say, we'll never attempt to write and we'll never do anything and say, oh, I don't know how to find my unique handwriting. Like, dude, right, then you find your handwriting. That's how we find the handwriting. Like, it's not as complicated, right? Now, of course, the whole idea of finding voice is usually where, like, the voice that I write with now, it's not exactly the voice that I want to write with. It's not really good, it's terrible, it's crap. And that's the thing. You imitate other people's work, and in imitating you get a sense of the feel of the style. At first you get the sense of the immediate feel and style of that work. And later on, you get an immediate feel of style of how the words combine together and how everything combines together. And depending on the works you've been exposed to, you create, everything comes together to create a unique sense of style and voice for you. And then you write in your own style. And oh, that's his own style, that's his own writing and all that, right? Okay, so your voice isn't static, it evolves with you, it develops with you as you grow as a writer. And the only way you can find your voice, you can develop your voice, is by speaking, is by writing. So it's not like you go find it in a treasure box or a treasure hunt. It's by writing, it's by imitating others, it's by copying, it's by walking, and it's by reading more extensively. That's when you find your voice. That's when you develop your voice, rather than sitting down and waiting that, oh, I'm going to find my voice. If the voice is not exactly what you want, look at the works of writers that you love and then try to imitate their works. And over time, you take and you borrow one or two from each of these writers, and you get a sense and feel, and you create something that's uniquely yours. So the question is, let's move on to the practical advice section. Do we develop our voice? The first thing, we want to write consistently and experiment with different style. Same thing with our handwriting. How did we get our handwriting? We wrote over time, like when we're in class, they give us exercises, they give us things to write. We'll just write, and then we start copying notes and writing stuff and all those things. And then we started doing research and the writing and all the stuff, you get. We just wrote consistently and experimented over the years as kids, and then we went through the different school system, and now we're at the point where we'll write, and consistently, right? It wasn't like, oh, write for 2 weeks, write for 1 month. That wasn't the goal. Like, the goal was just keep on writing. Over time we'll get something that is yours. And even if I see my handwriting, immediately I know that that's my handwriting. Like even if you were to copy my handwriting, like if you were to do a perfect forgery of my handwriting and I see it in somewhere else, I'll know that, like, dude, this looks like my handwriting, you know? Next thing is want to read widely, but don't try to copy. Now, of course, what I mean by don't try to copy, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't like do copy walking, imitate, and all that to get a sense and feel of what the words combine and everything. But the whole idea is that we want to build something that is us, and we don't want to start writing like Shakespeare and sound like Shakespeare. And this is our writing voice. No, Shakespeare is Shakespeare. We are we. You are you, right? I am me, right? And then you want to embrace your quirks and your personal experiences and everything. And I think that's what makes you who you are. And then you want to get feedback from trusted readers. Yeah, that's one of the things. Yeah, I think with handwriting, usually when you write, you're like, how's my handwriting? Like, the handwriting terrible. I can't really see anything. I can't really make out the words. Like, okay, I need to work on my P, my I. Everything blends into each other. I should probably distinct that well. And then over time, you get something really, really good and encouraging to read. Okay, so the question is, what is the listener challenge for this episode? The listener challenge for this episode is your right challenge is to write about a short paragraph about your morning routine, but in the style of your favorite author, and then rewrite it in your own words, embracing your natural way of expression. Now, I'd love to see what you come up with. Share it with me. Okay, now remember, unique voice is a combination of your experiences, perspective, and style. It's not something you find overnight, but something you develop through consistent practice and self-reflection. Right. Exactly what I've said. And you find your voice, you develop yourself by using your voice. And if your voice is not exactly what you want it to be, the question you should ask is, what are the writers you love? And then, imitate their works. Over time, you will assemble and take one or two from all of them and create something that is yours, a combination that is just uniquely yours. And it's not like it can't be found in anywhere else. So now, one of the things I want to ask you is that if you found this episode useful and helpful, please subscribe and leave a review. And yeah, join us on the next episode. Until next time, keep writing. I've been your host, Oyemichi Noakonam, and you've been listening to the Build Writing Podcast. See you next time.